In this video, we'll take a look at setting up our Shopbot CNC to cut our first posted program. So just a little bit about the interface here. The main power switch is right here, and to start with, we'll need to turn this switch on. There's an emergency off button here. We want to make sure this is not pushed in. So if you rotate it softly, it will pop out and it'll be in the disengaged mode. We have our primary drive servo here. Our spindle control box is right here. We have the tools to change out the bits located over here by the on switch. The spindle is right here with the dust collection shoe down here. So here's a zoomed in photo of the emergency stop button and a zoomed in photo of the on off switch. So right now the machine is in the on position. Now as soon as the machine has been turned on, we have to reset the servos. So you push this blue button here, and we also have an emergency stop switch located at this remote console. The start button is the spindle start switch, and we'll need to engage that later on when we actually run the spindle, run the program. So now, once I've turned the machine on and reset the machine, I can open up the Shopbot software by double-clicking on the icon, and it brings up our user interface. If we fail to reset the machine, or one of the emergency switches is on, the screen that we'll see will look like this, because it'll be in a preview screen, and it won't allow us to actually perform any tasks with the machine. So we have the option to reset here, or with the blue button here. So I'll go back to this move cut screen, and now I can jog the machine, I can run programs, so on. So generally, if I'm using the machine all the time, I know where my X and Y 0 points are. But if it's being used by a lot of different users, you always want to make sure you re-zero the machine. And you can do that with this zero tab here. When I select it, you get this crazy Space Invaders noise. And the machine will run a small cycle to zero out the standard X and Y 0 points. And actually, I misspoke here. This sends it to the current 0 location. The XY tab here is the one that runs the zeros out the X and Y subroutine. The other tab next to it is the Z 0 subroutine. Now we'll use this to touch off the tool to the top of our material, and that will be shown an in-person demonstration and not in this video. So I just sent the machine to its current X and Y 0 setting. For this project, when we go to cut our small foam, we're gonna jog the X and Y to the point of where our part is located at. And again, I'll show you that in the physical demonstration. But to jog, you have the keypad here that you can select, and now I can move the X and Y in the XY direction using these tabs, and I can move the Z up and down with these tabs. These also correspond to the arrow keypad on your keyboard, and these are the page up, page down tabs on your keyboard. Now, once I've set my X and Y 0. So I just jogged it to a theoretical XY spot. I can come up here to the 0 tab, and I can make, if I select this, it will lock in the current position to be my X and Y 0 point. I'm going to escape out of that. The other thing to do when you first start the machine up is warm up the spindle. So if I come up here to cuts, there's a subroutine. C2 is a 0 Z-axis. That's the same tab as this tab here. And the spindle warm-up routine, C5, will run a small program, and it gives me a prompt here. It says to start the spindle with start button, then click OK. So that green start button, this button here, I will now press it and say OK, and it will start to run a spindle warm-up routine. Now, if I need to stop the program at any time, I can say stop, and I can either resume it or quit that program, and that applies to any program on the Shopbot. So I've run my spindle warm-up, and I'm ready to actually run my first setup series of G codes. So to do that, I come over here to cut, and I select the file that I had exported, say open it, and I get this this command sheet here. And especially with fairly complicated 3D programs, and with your first 50 or so programs, we're going to run a 3D offset. And when we run this 3D offset, what it's going to do, it's going to disengage the Z, so the up and down, and it's just going to phantom run the program over the part. And we do this to verify that we're in the correct location, that the program is running in the correct X and Y Z planes, and to make sure also that we're not going to bump into or run into anything. So with the 3D offset selected, I say start. It does the crazy Space Invaders thing. And for the video purposes, I can't actually engage this because it'll shut out the video. But it gives me a prompt to start the spindle. So I start the spindle, and I select OK, and it will run the program. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. Now, while the program is running, you want to make sure that you don't leave the station you're at. So the space bar on the keyboard will pause the program if anything is starting to go wrong. So you want to be near that space bar. And then these emergency stop buttons, you always want to be aware of where they're at, just in case something goes wrong. If there's a major crash, when you push this stop button, it will shut the machine down immediately. The space bar will shut it down. Sometimes it'll take about 5 to 10 seconds to completely shut down. So space bar is if things are kind of going wrong. Emergency is for things when things are really going wrong. So that pretty much concludes the basic Shopbot interface. The other video we'll look at, we'll look at running the X-Carve machine. Let's see.